Hey everyone! So I've been feeling pretty nostalgic lately. I don't know if it's something about summer, but I've been thinking a lot about my childhood and also some of the art that I made in my childhood and some of the media that I liked. So, like many people, one of the things that got me into art, aside from just growing up drawing, was anime. And in fact, I have an entire binder of middle school anime drawings. In fact, if I were to flip through this, I put these in little binder page protectors. I would love to go through this on the channel someday, and maybe I will. But today I wanted to recreate one piece in particular. So this is the old piece. It's not even finished, I don't think. I honestly would draw the character and then get to the background back in the day and essentially skip it. I think that's pretty common. Even now I still do that, but I thought that it'd be nice to redo this beauty, maybe give her shorter calves, and maybe put her in an actual setting. So let's get moving. So jumping straight into things, I first wanted to talk a little bit about some of the preparation that I did for this piece. Right now, I have found that the best method for me is to start off with some thumbnail sketches, usually traditionally in my sketchbook, to work out different ideas and composition, and then I will move over to Procreate and flesh out the sketch and turn it into what I actually would like the base sketch for the final piece to be. That actually worked out really well here, and something I did beforehand was actually kind of just practice drawing my old style. I hadn't drawn anything with a more anime touch to it in a while, and while I feel like my style definitely carries elements from anime, it's not quite as intense as it used to be when I was younger. It was a fun way to warm up before getting a little more serious and planning out the piece. After that, I decided to start looking at some different reference photos and trying to plan a more interesting composition than the original piece I made back in middle school. As a kid, I definitely didn't use reference photos much, especially not reference photos of real people and real anatomy. Usually it meant Googling anime photos on Google Images and sorting through everything there was to try to find something inspirational. So between using references with real people and also years of experience and time put into honing my craft, I think that it was quite a bit easier to get a more interesting sketch to start off with. The other thing that I needed to consider was what medium I wanted to use. If I wanted to be true to the past, I would use a mix of probably Crayola colored pencils, a few hand-me-down alcohol markers from my mom, back from when she went to art school, and a good old trusty number 2 pencil. And I would mix all of those. It's kind of why the original, you can definitely see the pencil marks. There was no line work. I just colored directly on top of the sketch. Now, if I owned any alcohol markers, I probably would have gone with those, but I unfortunately no longer have any. So I decided to go with my next best option and use watercolor and then layer over top with some colored pencils. I thought this would give me a similar effect, but also a much better effect than the original piece. I also decided to go with a very similar color palette, but obviously add to it considering the original was not quite finished. But I wanted to make sure to include the blue hair as well as some of the dark pink accents. which I decided to make a little more neon and use my Opera Rose paint color. I did, however, struggle with what color to make her shirt in order to not take over the blue that was already in her hair, while also leaving room to give a grassy background, which it also took me a little while to figure out what shades of green were going to go best with this. I ended up kind of pausing halfway through and hopping onto my iPad and playing around with colors a little bit before I went into the background. That was definitely one of the parts that I felt the most challenged by, at least as far as colors go. I've definitely found that doing these things, pausing when I get stuck rather than pushing through, always leads to a much better outcome. I think I used to get frustrated, kind of panic, and just slap paint down, and that almost always leads to me feeling pretty disappointed and starting over. So I'm pretty happy that I decided, rather than pushing through, that I should take a moment and look at what all my options are. It's also something that makes me pretty thankful for technology, because it's so much easier to take a photo and bring it into an art app and play around with colors than doing basically everything traditionally. Now, even though that extra step isn't a ton of extra work, I find that sometimes when I am making art and I start to lose steam, I get a little impatient, and that is usually when I start making mistakes, because I'm not willing to take that extra time to really plan things out or think about the next steps that I need to take. That's certainly something that I've been dealing with my entire art journey. As you can see in the previous piece, I didn't even finish it. I think, especially when I was younger, I kind of drew the part that was interesting to me, and then when it came to a background or something else, I'd just get stumped, give up, and move on. And so I'm happy that now I can create a full piece with a background even. Like, I think that's almost the biggest piece of growth, is that I don't just draw girls anymore. Still draw a lot of them, but now they actually are in a space that is not just the void. I should probably also talk a little bit about why I decided to recreate some of my old art. Other than it's fun to see how you've grown, and it takes a little bit of work out of thinking about what exactly to create. But I had some other reasons going into it as well. I think the biggest reason, kind of like I mentioned in the intro, is that I've just been feeling incredibly nostalgic lately. I don't know if it's something about summer or the fact that my birthday just happened, but I've been really looking back at my childhood, and art was a really big part of that. I also more recently rediscovered the binder with all of these old drawings in them, and there's just so much joy I get from seeing the old art. I can really see the passion I had, and also I can kind of see into my old thought process, and it just feels like there's a lot of memories attached to this old artwork. For context, the piece that I'm recreating today, I probably made when I was in the 7th grade, probably at around 12 years old, and most of the artwork in that binder is from when I was 12 and 13. Going back and recreating some of that work kind of feels like a good way to connect with my childhood self and also see how I've grown and know that middle school Emily would have probably been pretty proud of this work, even if I today don't think it's perfect. But indulging in that nostalgia is probably the biggest reason why I decided to go and recreate some old artwork. Now to jump back into the artwork, at this point I am using some colored pencils to add line work. I found that this is definitely the way I want to go about line work in the future because I'm able to adjust the colors how I want while also maintaining a soft yet crisp feel. I also made a lot more cuts in the footage around here because it is almost impossible to do line work while filming. At least to me, it's kind of a mental thing, but also I tend to put my face very close to the paper and almost always end up blocking the camera, so I tried to show the highlights of this part. These final little details with the paint and colored pencils end up being what really ties everything together for me, really just makes it feel more complete and a lot closer to what I was envisioning. I find this is where I finally start to feel a lot less nervous about the outcome. I also want to give a small apology for this next part. The camera didn't quite want to focus, especially as I was doing the smaller details, but I wanted to keep this footage in since this was kind of where I feel like the face and the hair started to have the effect that I was wanting to convey the whole time. And with that, I think I'm going to let you enjoy the rest of the process here, and I'll jump back in again at the reveal. the finished piece. It's definitely, again, not perfect, but I really enjoy how it came out. I like that the eyes are bigger and that it has more of an anime vibe to it. And overall, I think that 12-year-old Emily would be quite proud of this result. And that's really what I was going for this whole time. And with that being said, I hope you enjoyed the video. Please leave any feedback or comments in the comment section down below. And I will see you all next time.